through the results of our big community survey. And I just want to mention from a CEO perspective, I assume everyone in this room probably participated, but I just want to send out a big thank you to the community. We had record numbers of turnout, and we're going to go through this. We were hoping to get 500 or 600 people, and we got over 1,700 people to participate. So I'm sure a number of people in this room got the word out really to the entire Reston community. The comments that I just want to make this evening, and then I'm going to hand it off to Laura to walk through, relate primarily to the fact that this is a seminal moment and event for us. Thinking about where we're heading as a community and the types of capital improvements that we're going to want to make, and really having a good understanding of what our community wants over the next 10 to 20 years is a really important thing for the staff to help the board work through funding decisions. So when we go through all this, we're going to give you the executive summary. There's actually a mountain of data behind it, but we're going to show you what it all means. And then Laura will walk through the schedule as we post websites and have public meetings with the board of directors. So last thing I want to do before I hand it off to Laura, always good to introduce all the dignitaries. So Hunter Mill Supervisor Walter Alcorn, toe to tie. RA Board President John Farrell, Travis Johnson, Margaret Perry, Jennifer Juszek, we have Bob Petrine, Trevor Grawatch, there we go, okay. I got Travis, yep, there we go, okay. So if I haven't met you, feel free to come by afterwards, introduce yourself. I always enjoy meeting members for the first time. So I'm going to hand it off to Laura and have her walk through some of this, and our Chief Operating Officer, Peter Lusk, is going to come up and talk a little bit too.
I think it's really funny that you guys all chose over there. Was this like the front of the class kind of scenario where you didn't want to be up there? So I will probably sneak this over and around as we talk. So my name's Laura Kowalski. I'm the Director of Recreation and Environmental Education with Reston Association. And I also want to introduce a couple of people that are on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. So Mickey is here and Kathleen is here. And also there are some former members as well. Julie is here also. So thank you all for being here. All right, I'm going to jump right in. So I would like to take a second to introduce and do a special thanks for this survey project team. So first up is Jane Brom. She is a Reston Association RA member and the lead from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for this initiative. Brian Cavato, she also has 30 years of experience in marketing research, I should mention. So she's a valuable asset for this group. Noise Doctors was the firm that we engaged, and they provide analytics and marketing research services to organizations like us, and that's Brian and Kim Cavato. And then our professional Reston Association staff, Matt Cummins, our CEO, Peter Lusk, our COO, myself, and I would be remiss if I did not mention all of the Reston Association team that helped to support this project. Our communications team, they're not in here, but there are some doing the cameras, so thank you so much. Our recreation team who helped with those on-site initiatives, and then also a special shout out to Hob Brock, our volunteer manager, who helped coordinate the outreach efforts within the community. So a big thank you to all of them. So tonight, the overview, the following slides provide a high-level overview of the community survey, process, outreach efforts, and begin to outline those results and next steps. The presentation will address the subject, background, and objectives, outreach efforts, insights, and learnings and next steps. This survey was conducted to collect critical feedback from our members to inform both short and long-term planning for our parks and recreational facilities. The key insights include member attitudes about usage in RA's existing parks and rec facilities, identification of the key drivers and barriers associated with member usage, and members' evaluations of the prospective new facilities investment options. So some details about the survey. To qualify, residents must have been at least 16 years of age and either must live and either own or rent within a Reston Association deeded property. And we did have owners that do not live in Reston but own property in Reston were allowed to participate. Respondents were given choices of either responding on their own computer device, iPad, or Reston Association provided pre-programmed iPads with the survey from the research agency. Respondents were able to participate in both English and in Spanish. So a total of 1,773 members completed this survey. This represents the largest participation of any survey that Reston Association has conducted to date. This survey was achieved because of carefully designed education, communication, and outreach campaign. Before the survey launched, a 4-week education campaign began to promote awareness of the forthcoming survey through a variety of media and both private and through RA and signage on site. During the 8-week data collection period, there were continued education reminders on the survey through a variety of channels, some of which include the on-site signage that you see in this image and in-person intercepts. There's another Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee member, Mary Shedlock, with Hobrock, and a member taking the intercept on an iPad. And you can see on the site signage, there's a QR code. This was provided along with links on other media communications that were given. We also sent reminder postcards via email. So how many of you took the survey? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, that's fantastic. So I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. So what we will do, though, is the data presented through this will go through each one of these different survey content and organization categories. So the survey has a high level of statistical validity through large sample size, and we achieve this statistical reliability at a 95% confidence interval or margin of error of 5%. With an optimal sample size is 300. So our sample size far exceeded that by 500%. Next, we applied industry standard practices of weighting the data. And this ensures that findings were not biased as the results with differential response rates. The weighting did not impact any of the key metrics. Finally, we employed industry standards for the questionnaire design. Questions were constructed using standard research protocol with no leading or confusing questions that can be interpreted in different ways. So now let's talk about the key takeaways. I know this is the most important part. Okay, so highlighted here are the key insights. There are 8 high-level points. I'm going to go through these rather quickly because the remaining slides touch on each one. So members who use RA's Parks and Recreation facilities are more satisfied with RA and their related value of their assessments. Members are far more interested in maintaining and in some cases expanding usage opportunities for our current Parks and Rec facilities than they are for investing in new. RA's paved pathways are used by virtually all members, and they are used more frequently than any other facility and our most widely valued resource in Reston. Pools are used by almost 7 out of 10 members, and they are the second most frequently used type of facility and also widely valued. Lakes and ponds and parks and playgrounds are used by over 75% of members. However, usage of these facilities is less frequent than that of our trails and pools. Roughly 40% of the members use court facilities at least occasionally for either pickleball and or tennis, and their usage frequency is typically half of that of trails and 30% less than of pools. Members are generally pleased with their usage of tennis and pickleball facilities, although they do have concerns with court access, especially during peak times. Members are less pleased with the usage of our pool facilities. They have identified this as RA's most pressing area for improvement. Their concerns are predominantly the length of the seasons and hours. Okay, so before we go into details, I'll give you some relevant context. So this is Reston's historical population growth. Starting in 1970 through today, or 2020, you can see that there's been significant growth in Reston. Thinking back to when Bob Simon originally laid out plans for Reston, the local population as a whole has aged considerably. As you can see by the image, the median age of Fairfax County's population increased by more than 50% from 1970 to 2020, and it's expected to increase by almost another quarter. So the aging population will have a major implication on how we plan for RA's future Parks and Rec facilities. Between 2020 and 2050, Fairfax County population distribution of all age cohorts below the age of 35 are forecast to decline. The next 3 decades, the population growth is expected to come from individuals aged 35 and older, particularly in the 65-plus category. So these historical and demographic trends are helpful for us to keep in mind when planning for the future of Parks and Rec facilities. The goal is to optimally fulfill the Parks and Recreation needs of all of our residents, both now and into the future. The results of the survey will help by providing the following insights: an assessment of our residents' current and future utilization of our existing facilities, the evaluation of our residents' desire for new facilities and programming, and identifying gaps in the needs related to facilities and programming. So these survey insights will help us guide us in meeting the needs and wants of the current and future population through tailoring our recreation facility mix, the operational availability, and the program. So next we take a look at Reston Association member facility attitudes and usage. Most members, 84%, perceive RA's annual assessment to be at an acceptable or better value. A higher perceived overall value is correlated with the greater use of RA facilities. So 44% of members perceived RA assessment to be good or greater value. These members tend to purchase recreation passes and use a greater number of RA facilities, especially the pools and courts. 16% of members view RA's annual assessment to be a poor or worse value. These members use a lower number of recreation facilities. So most members, 84%, view RA's Parks and Recreation facilities as important. For many, the facilities played a major role in their desire to live within RA. About a quarter of members don't think RA facilities are well maintained. These members also are more likely not to perceive value in the annual assessment. On average, members use between 6 and 7 of RA's Parks and Rec facilities. Most members are aware of RA facilities and nearly all use at least one of them. So in this chart, the dark blue line portion of the stacked bar represents incidence of current usage for each type, and then the light stacked bar represents the incidence of members who do not currently use each facility but do have some interest. So as you can see also in the column to the right, virtually all of our members are aware of all of our facilities. And the top 6 facilities listed are used by at least half of our members. On average, RA members use the pathways for walking or running the most, and usually multiple times a week, followed by RA's pools. So usage incidents combined with the usage frequency equal overall impact. It's important to consider both of these metrics. For example, the picnic pavilions, community buildings, and volleyball courts are all used by less than half of our members, and members using them are using them infrequently. So we know the pathways are our most widely utilized Parks and Recreation facility used by virtually all members for walking or running, and substantial majority of 62% for biking. Members are typically using the pathways more frequently than any other facilities, once a week, if not more, for walking and running, and then bi-monthly for biking. Members are generally satisfied with the current access and usage to our lakes and ponds. The vast majority of our members are already using lakes and ponds at 87%, and they are our 5th most frequently used facility, with most users using them bi-monthly on average. Only 4% of members indicated they want to use our lakes or ponds but are unable to, either due to scheduling or availability issues, and the remaining 9% have no interest. Should Reston Association choose to expand this member access, members would prefer that those expansions be in ways that enable their ability to either rent boats or launch their own boats. RA pools are not used, RA pools not only used by a much larger percentage of our members, but they're also used much more frequently than the tennis and pickleball courts. More than half of RA's pool users use our pools at least weekly, if not more frequently. Most tennis and pickleball court users use the court facilities only occasionally. When a member indicates that they only use a facility occasionally, it means that they're using it less than monthly. So for example, they may have only used it once in that last year. Going back to the member potential impact, when we compare the usage incidence to the usage frequency, there's really no comparison. Pools have a much heavier impact on the members than the courts. It's important to note that both tennis and pickleball experienced explosive growth during the pandemic. It's impossible to say at this point if this will be sustained. Really only time will tell. So members have far fewer issues or barriers to tennis and pickleball courts than they do with pools. The majority of members do not have any issues with RA courts. 21% of the members that use the tennis and pickleball courts have no issues. The other 50% of members are not interested in using them. Existing court users are most likely to cite busy or crowded facilities, court cracks, and excessive pass fees as their primary or barrier for that use. Interested court users are most likely to cite, interested court users, so those that are not currently, are more likely to cite pass expense as their barrier for use. On the other hand, the majority of our members, about 2/3, have issues or barriers with using the pools. A limited pool schedule and busy, crowded pools were members' top reasons for not using pools more frequently. Limited hours is especially a concern for users with children. Members who want to use the pools for fitness purposes also expressed excessive noise and the inability to get a lap lane as their key barriers. So let's drill down into the top barrier usage, limited hours, a little more. The 1 to 5 time frame was selected by most pool users as the time that they would like to use pools, especially on the weekends. Users who predominantly attended pools with children prefer using pools across more time periods than those who do not. More than half of all pool users want to be able to use the pools between 5 and 9 p.m. 7 days a week. Many members want to be able to use the pools in the later morning hours between 9 a.m. and noon, 7 days a week, and there are currently very limited swimming hours during this time. So if we look at the 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 5 to 9 time slots, those are our greatest opportunities for increasing utilization amongst the members that cited that as a key barrier. Expanding pool hours operation alone will not fully resolve the pool access issues. Members also want the pool season length to be significantly expanded. RA's 2023 schedule was very similar to the 2022 schedule. It featured an 8-week primary season during which our members had access to the greatest number of pools during the broadest selections of time in the middle. Otherwise, member pool access was significantly reduced, especially so midweek during the day. During seasons 2 and 4, the pools were open primarily on weekends and weekdays limited. In a perfect world with unlimited budgets, members want all of the pools open Memorial Day to Labor Day. So a little more than half of pool users usually attend without being accompanied by a minor child, while almost 1/3 attend with minor children. However, pool users who reside in a household with children are heavier pool users than those without. RA pool users usually use between 3 and 4 different pools. Members attending pools with children use more pools than those who attend without children. RA pool usage has a huge variety-seeking component to it. The neighborhood pool is valued by our members but far from the only pool that they use. So as you can see, 88% use at least one pool in their home district, but not necessarily the neighborhood pool. And 12% don't use their neighborhood pool, and that's primarily driven by pool closures or reduced hours. And on average, pool users who predominantly attend with minor children use Glade and Uplands more, and those who attend pools than those who attend without. So something to note on this slide with when the question was asked for both Lake Thoreau and Shadowwood pools that were closed during renovation, right next to that, it was noted to assume that they were open, that was available as a choice. So RA members who use pools for a wide variety of purposes. A usage occasion is often primarily on either the in-pool play activity or fitness. Relaxation can be associated with either one of these, but it tends to usually be associated with those who chose fitness. Members were asked to rank their top pool usage priority, and in-pool play activity was prioritized more often than fitness and relaxation. Out-of-play activity, which is not in the water, those are those features surrounding, like a grill or something adjacent. A third of the pool, while used by a third of the pools, was rarely prioritized. RA members overwhelmingly prioritize the in-pool play activity when they attend the pools with minor children, whereas those attending pools without minor children prioritize fitness and relaxation. When pool users attended pools with children, they prioritized this activity almost 4 times more than when pool users attended without. Similarly, those without minor children prioritize fitness 10 times more and relaxation 4 times more. So there are 2 predominant pool usage occasion types, each with different and often conflicting usage needs. So the in-pool play activity and then fitness and relaxation. Future pool programming should strive to accommodate both occasion-specific usage needs in order to optimally meet member demand. It's important to note that there is a difference between a usage occasion and the pool user. The same pool user often has different pool needs on different occasions that they visit the facility. So for example, one of the comments that the respondents made was, I think the binary model, fitness versus family, makes a division of functions that doesn't work for my family. Sometimes I go to the pool early to swim laps, and then the rest of my family joins me. Members were asked to select which of the following future RA pool models they preferred the most and which they preferred second. These options were randomly rotated to remove order bias. And don't worry, I'm not going to read these slides. Option A is our current pool model. Option B has 15 pools, but has a pool within each region that's dedicated to either kids and families or have more fitness options. And option C is the same as B, but it's a reduction from 15 pools to between 8 and 10. The majority of members do not want to reduce the number of pools. This finding is consistent with members' overall prioritization on maintaining rather than reducing our number of parks and recreation facilities overall. So among those selecting either option A or B as their first option, a little more than half want to retain pools as is, while less than half are interested in converting. Members whose top preference was to create specialty pools were more likely to use pools for fitness. Members preferring to reduce the number of pools were less interested in using almost all types of recreation facilities, including pools, and less likely to have children present. Preferences did not differ by member, district, whether they typically attended pools with children, age, or income. So, none of the pool models that were tested earned a majority of member preference. This plurality indicates that most members want some change implemented in the future pool model, and that none of these 3 options that we tested were quite right. However, option B had the greatest breadth of appeal, as it was broadly selected as either a first or second choice with all 3 groups. So the vast majority, 83% of members choosing Model A as their first choice, chose B as their second. And likewise, a vast majority, the 74% of those choosing Model C as their first choice, chose B as their second choice. Respondents did an excellent job of articulating their different perspectives on whether RA should permanently and exclusively dedicate pools, either for kids and family or fitness usage. So people preferring Model A, retaining pools as is, are often strongly opposed to dedicated fitness facilities, as they see that change would limit their access and enjoyment of several pools. Respondents preferring Model B, dedicating some of the pools for fitness usage, are enthusiastic about dedicating fitness pools and perceive it as an important change that will allow them to use the facilities as they would like. At the end of the survey, we gave respondents options of sharing anything that was not covered in the survey. Respondents were most likely to provide responses to this question that highlighted their pool-related concerns. This underscores how important pools are to the community. The majority focused their messaging on member demand for a longer pool season and expanded hours. Many cited the need for increasing lifeguard pay to resolve the staffing issue, which many respondents believe is the primary reason of RA's reduced hours and pool season. Some of the respondents used the questions to encourage RA to reduce the number of pools. The overwhelming majority volunteered how keeping 15 pools opened is to their household, emphasizing it was a key reason why they selected Reston to begin with, and then others expressing concern that property values would fall if pools closed. So while expanding pool access, those seasons and hours, and perspectives on the future pool models that we tested were the topics of most often contributed in the question, respondents also frequently volunteered other insights on how RA can optimize the experience. First, better trained and more attentive lifeguards. Related to pool passes, stating that they were too expensive, there should be an easier and more convenient process for pool pass acquisition, including at the pool, or rolling the pool pass fees into the annual assessment. More pool shade options, including but not limited to umbrellas, better maintenance and cleaning of the pool house area, especially the restrooms, more heated pools and hot tubs, and food options to include food trucks or visiting caterers. From our members' perspective, the ideal RA pool model, which will optimize pool usage for everyone, is a hybrid of A and B, and to a lesser but still important extent, C. So first, keep the 15 pool footprint. Expand the pool seasons across more pools. Optimize the hours of operation by opening certain pools for kid, family, and fitness users earlier on some days, especially during that 9 to noon time frame, and keeping pools open later between 5 and 9. Expanding the existing fitness hour program at pools that are not as heavily used by families and children and have the lowest pool usage levels. Rolling the RA pool pass fees into the annual assessment to increase the perceived value of using pools by decreasing the perceived usage cost. A decrease in the average cost per person for each pool pass by amortizing the expense across all members. This was particularly impactful for our families with children as their related household costs are greater due just to the larger size of the household. And it will also help to address option C member concerns. There is a subset of people that want to reduce the number of pools who are primarily driven by financial pressures. This subsegment of members preferring option C actually have quite a bit of interest in using the pools. So now we will look at an evaluation of member interest for new facilities. In a general context, almost 2/3 of our members prioritize maintaining existing Parks and Rec facilities over developing new ones. We also surveyed member interest in a wide variety of specific new Parks and Rec facilities and services. Only a handful of them tested well, and this finding is consistent with how strongly members prioritize the maintenance of our existing facilities over developing new ones. Members are less likely to agree that we should develop new Parks and Rec facilities to address the growing needs of our members than they are to prioritize maintaining our existing at 64%. Given that only 15% are outright opposed to developing new Parks and Rec facilities, members are potentially open to developing new facilities, but will need to fully understand each initiative's specifics, including the cost first. There's little member interest in converting existing facilities to the new uses and even less in reducing the number of the facilities. So the first group of specific new facilities and services that were evaluated by respondents were tested unpriced. Improving RA's unpaved trails was rated as the most important item by far tested in this set. Over half also prioritized ADA playgrounds, kayak rentals, and lakefront improvements. The majority of members found that repurposing or lining tennis courts for pickleball to be the least item in this set. Pickleball users, however, did rate this as being important, almost twice as important relative to all members. Then we tested a second group of new facilities and services, but this time we tested them in a priced context. When presented with specifics on paying for new Parks and Rec facilities and services, only a minority of members were interested in making these investments, and within that subgroup, the only item in which they were somewhat interested was the least expensive by far. Doing nothing and expanding boat operations was selected at least 2-to-1 to other options. There was no difference in the item preference whether members were told they would pay for a new facility with an annual one-year expense versus amortizing it over 20. Most members are not interested in developing an indoor tennis facility, with the exception of members who currently use non-RA indoor court facilities. This is the second most desirable choice for this subgroup after outdoor pickleball court lighting. Installing sports field lighting, especially at Diamond Field Sports, was not of interest. So this is your piece of paper on your chair that you can take with you. Members appreciate RA Parks and Recreation facilities, and their usage thereof equals satisfaction with RA. Members want to keep existing facilities, but expand hours and programming options primarily for our pools. Members value trails and pools the most. Crowding is the biggest obstacle for pickleball and tennis, and members prefer the maintenance of and improvements to existing facilities over new. So on to recommended next steps. So how will RA utilize this wealth of insights to improve member experience going forward? Here are some of the examples. So within recreation programming, RA will revisit programming opportunities based on the feedback, especially for the pool play activity and fitness usage occasions, to include the hours of operation and also the season length. In capital improvement planning, we'll revisit the capital plan to ensure that it includes projects that are most favored by the community. And with operation and maintenance planning, taking a look where we need to incorporate the feedback for related improvement opportunities. In the meantime, this is where we need to go first. So next week is the Board of Directors presentation and discussion on the topic. On the 20th, Monday, the website will have all of this information plus more with the full report. On the 29th, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meets and we'll have a briefing. In December, the Board of Directors will begin work plan discussions. And then in the first quarter, the community survey work plan creation will begin. Thank you for attending. They're not, and unfortunately, Jane Brom is ill, and so she isn't able to be here either.
I was wondering how many, they could break out demographics, or how many apartment renters
Yes.
responded?
Yes. Yes, we asked those questions, and that information is available in the full report. So by district, by owner, renter, owner but not occupied. So somebody who lives somewhere else but still owns property in Reston.
And I wondered how much of the pool data corresponded to actual data that you have, since everybody taps in the past and the pool. You have a lot of data already.
We have a lot of data, and it did reaffirm that, those usage hours and what the desires are for the expanded hours of operation, and then also the season length. That chart that we showed with the season 3, the middle season, that's when Fairfax County Schools is out, where we have our largest contingent of employees and people visiting the facilities. But as you saw with the aging population and the split between the pool play activity and then also the desire for fitness and relaxation in that group, and the aging population, there's a correlation so that we can take a look and use that and say, okay, well, how are our hours and maybe what should we do differently?
those age numbers are Fairfax-wide, they're not Reston.
They're not Reston specific, so we could not get specific Reston Association deeded property information, but it is for Reston.
But you also didn't, you started the age at 16 to ask, to answer this.
Yes.
So you missed a huge group of children who use the facilities.
So the questions that we're at,
I'm just saying, we don't have specifics, that Reston is aging at the same rate, and then we also didn't ask children what they were.
we use the census information that we had available. And when the respondents were asked, they were asked to answer for their household. So maybe we captured some of that information.
I'm just a little concerned because they're important, and we want to make sure that, we're really considered. And so when we're talking about possibly looking at an option B where some schools may not be open to children, I think that would be a very big decision that would have great impact. And shouldn't just be taken lightly and based on, incomplete data, if we don't really have a full understanding of the needs of the kids.
So it was interesting with the use and the usage occasion. You heard my example that it's very important that the usage occasion is different from the pool user. So the way that people use the facilities, that example was somebody goes to the facility by themselves to use that for a fitness or relaxation, but yet they still have a need to have an option for. So there's really a mix. And so mentioned in one of the slides was that we're really looking at a hybrid option is what is preferred
A hybrid option.
between A and B, maintaining 15 and then looking at those two groups to accommodate as much as we can for as many ways that people prefer to use the facilities as we can.
I don't think you have the data to say that children at a pool preclude people from using it as fitness. And so I want to make sure that we're not, interpreting this data to mean that pools should be cut off from children.
That wasn't derived, no.
I don't remember from the survey, didn't your demographics ask whether you were single or?
Yes.
Yeah, you would assume the parents are staying.
Would be answering for the
Children.
So
The demographics give you family versus single.
This is all I have to say.
So one other thing is that, this is just a high level view, and we have so much information here that we can take and do pivot tables and dig and drill down into different areas and create different profiles to test. Somebody, I couldn't see, so I apologize. Okay.
Go ahead.
Just for your option B, I just want to make sure I understand. Considering dedicating certain pools for specific uses or just certain time periods, not certain pools, like from 9 to 12 at these 3 pools are adults only or something.
So what was asked for option B? So utilizing the same 15 pool footprint that we have now, we will designate each pool as one of 2 specialty pool types. The first type, kids' family pools, will focus on amenities and programming for kids and families. The second type, fitness pools, will have more amenities and programming for those wanting to focus on fitness and exercise. Each of the 8 regions within RA will have nearby access to at least 1 kid family specialty pool and at least 1 fitness specialty pool, and all RA members and guests will continue to have access to all 15. Red.
So, do you think you get like so many curmudgeony responses in terms of preference for maintaining existing facilities? In other words, what is that slanted to older people rather than younger people going for newer facilities? Or am I not, understanding what the response is?
So we could look by age. We do have the information.
You don't know.
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
Cross-test, okay. Let me ask you this question.
you're the guru for recreation. Were you surprised by any particular results of this survey? If so, what were they?
So I've been with the Recreation Department for many years. And so what was important to me about this exercise was to solidify some of the things that we heard through data so that we can pass this to the board of directors so that they can use it when making decisions moving forward. So we had heard some of these before. So did something majorly surprise me? No. But I really love that we have specific information so those decisions can be made with our capital program, with our, just how we operate all of the facilities, not just pools. So there is information, not just pools, it's just that this is one thing that rose to the top. As you saw that pool usage is very important to the membership.
Just
Yeah, yeah, no, fine.
Shut up for the rest of my life. Where are the pickleball facilities? I want to avoid them.
Why? Go play. No. So we do have courts lined that are not open to the general public, but we do have courts that are available for public use at Colts Neck, and then also at Autumnwood Pool, or Autumnwood Court facility behind the pool. We do have lines, for example, at Lake Newport Pool, but we use that only for programming, so we don't leave the nets up. It's really, it's for tennis use, but we will program.
I might check them.
Okay?
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I just wanted, on this slide,
Mhm.
I misread it the first time I saw it. But I'm wondering if we can really say that people, that there's a high percentage that wants B for their second choice, or we're just so close to C that you have to choose B, because it's choose your second choice. So I'm just trying to.
So if you look at this one, so none of the pool models that we tested earned a majority of member preference. The only, based on the first, so then we looked at the first and second choice because of the plurality between. So more people chose option B as a first or second choice. That's all that is saying.
Right, I understand that, but I don't think that that implies that there's more people. You had to choose between, if you chose A, I had to choose between B or C. And C, if I really cared about keeping all of the pools open, was a non-starter. So I don't know that means though that we have a huge percentage that really wants a specialty pool that would not be open.
It's just the greatest breadth of appeal based on a first or second choice. That's all. Okay. So if you do have further questions, I do have a business card here, and Jane Brom, we will work with her and then also with our staff if you do have any follow-up questions to drill down. But let me just end on this so you can see what those next steps are. Okay, thank you for coming.